Welcome back into the studio, everybody. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a little 10 movement mobility routine. The goal of this routine is not to address any specific immobility issues that you might have, but instead to give you a more general mobility routine that should be great for anybody who wants to move a little better, feel a little more limber, who sits a lot, who is just not as mobile as they would like to be. If the cause of your immobility is something structural, then this might not be as helpful for you if it's caused by sitting and sedentary activity. But I put this together with the goal of helping the most people feel the most mobile after doing it. So we're talking about every single joint you can think of, the spine, specifically the thoracic spine, the shoulders, the hips, the ankles, the low back, the parts of the body where most people feel restricted. Each exercise we do, we're going to do for a total of 1 minute, and we're going to do 10 of them. So if you do all 10 without taking a break and they're not fatiguing enough that you should need one, you can literally mobilize your whole body in just about 10 minutes. So let's get into the first exercise of the day. This is going to be the cat camel. This is a spinal mobility exercise. It's also for the pelvis. So what we're thinking here, we're going to do this for a minute. I will maybe do some of these for less than a minute, but when we're done, we'll go through all of them. You'll take them. You'll do one round of each for a minute, 10 exercises, 1 minute each. So the cat camel is done from a quadruped position, meaning we're on our hands and knees. If you can't get into this position and do this exercise comfortably, don't worry about it. There's plenty of regressions that you can do. I'll show you one after. So from this position, we are in a wrist bent position here, okay? So the cool thing about this is I'm actually stretching all of the muscles inside on the bottom of my forearm. So we're getting some bonus there, okay? Now, from here, I'm simply going to breathe in, pulling my belly button up into my spine. And my tailbone's going to round down as my spine heads up towards the sky. And with a breath out, I'm going to assume the opposite position. My pelvis is going to flare back, and my spine is going to depress. So I have this valley here, okay? So we have a valley, and then we have a peak. A valley, they call this the cat, or rather the camel, I should say, because you have two humps, one at the top and one at the bum, and then the cat. And you'll also notice my shoulder blades, or you'll feel this when you do it, your shoulder blades, okay, they move across your rib cage. And so this exercise, continuous for 1 minute, it's going to get the forearms, the shoulders, the spine, and the pelvis moving and having better mobility. So that's the first one that we want to get done for the spine. Most people have pretty poor spinal mobility, pretty poor pelvic mobility. And improving mobility in those areas, just through movement like that, can make a huge difference. Now, I did promise you guys a regression, so just so you can see it really quick, if you're not fit enough to do it in that position, you can literally just come here and do it elevated. So simple. Okay. For the next movement, we're addressing the hips, specifically the hips' ability to do what we would call internal and external rotation. So we start in this position right here, which is called a 90-90. 90-degree angle at the ankle, 90-degree angle at the knee, 90-degree angle at the hip. Okay, and we have the same here. So this is 90-90. This position right here might be too much for you already. If it is, you can put a yoga block under one of these knees. But from here, using your hands as a guide, you're going to simply swivel. Okay, so it's just like a windshield wiper. Boom, over to this side, lean slightly this way, hands again supporting, back to this side. Slight lean, slight lean. So as I go from one side to the other, this hip is going to go into internal rotation and external rotation. So we're getting the hips to do what they do if you're advanced. Look at that. Oh, wow. Definitely not going to be doable for most of you. You're going to put your hands on the ground. You're going to regress it a little bit by kind of supporting. and walking through. And I know this is like the ultimate crotch shot, but this position right here, also good to spend some time in. You can work one leg at a time in that 90-90. If you wanted to add to this routine, make it a little longer, you can do this and add some of these in here. Again, you're just moving the ball and socket of the hip around, trying to maintain that 90-90 position, the ankles, knees, and hips the entire time. That's a great exercise. If you needed a regression, per se, that doesn't come natural to you, and you just want to better work on it, again, you can go right back to the bench, and you can kind of get into some of these positions as well. Okay, the third exercise I have on our list, of all of the exercises on the list today, this one may be my favorite. I call it the iron cross. I'm sure other people call it different things. I love this for my hips and my low back, and I do it similarly to how I do the 90-90. I start completely flat on my back. I put my palms up or down or here. Just got to do something with the hands. You can't have them down here, and you really can't have them behind the head. But from this position, you're going to take one leg, let's start with the right, and you're going to throw it over to the other side of the body, and then I take my head and I look at my opposite hand. So if my right leg's over here, I'm looking at my right hand over here. Okay, I'm going to get a big stretch in my hips and my low back and through my spine, and then what I do is I pull back, and I throw that other hip out, and I look over at the other hand. Iron cross. If you need a regression, okay, all I want you to do is just stay still, lift the leg, and let it fall as far as it will. A lot of you will not be able to do this, okay? If you need like extra help, just let it fall. If that's a little easy, look at the same side hand. If it's too easy, look at the opposite side hand. So this is the most advanced, looking opposite hand. Regression, looking same side hand. Most regress, looking straight up, just letting the leg fall. And then if you're really crazy and you just want the most mobility possible out of the iron cross, start in this position, hand on the top, look at your top thumb, top side thumb, and then as that top side thumb lifts away, you turn and look over at it. And that actually becomes the exercise. So a lot of advanced ways to do this for the purpose of the exercise though. Set a timer for 1 minute, be here, boom, and just go side to side, spending about 2 seconds on each side. You can also do this, call this the windshield wiper, another great regression. Okay, sticking with the hips and kind of low back area, we're going to get into the couch stretch. Great exercise for the quads and the hip flexors. And if you are like most people and you have tightness in that area, because your hip flexors run into the low back, you may get some relief in your low back from this exercise. So using a couch, using a chair, using a giant lat pull down machine, put something under one of your knees and get into this position. And then from here, push the hips forward. Lift the ribs ever so slightly. You can take the hands and push them up and turn to the same side as the front leg if you like. Honestly, you're completely fine just here. And hold that for 30 seconds to a minute. And then, of course, after about 30 seconds to a minute, switch sides. If this right here is like the most intense stretch in the entire world, don't extend your hips. Just stay in this position. You're going to get your quadriceps, your hip flexors, and again, if you're tight in the low back, you may feel some relief in the low back. Next, we're going to move on to a pair of static stretches for the upper body. I don't recommend a ton of static stretching. I like those mobility, movement-based exercises more. However, I'm going to show you a couple cool things to really help with your shoulder mobility and just your general kind of stiffness and tightness. I find that for most people, having tight lats is fairly common. So occasionally, stretching the lats can be valuable. And so this is a hanging lat stretch. My lats, again, they are actually going to attach on the inside of the arm here. So to stretch them completely, I need to have the arm out in front of the body. And also when I fall away, I create a big stretching reflex there. So my weight is back, my lats are stretching, and I'm gonna turn ever so slightly this way, and ever so slightly this way to bias the right side, and then the left side. And we're gonna hold this for about a minute total, switching every so often, getting some really good stretch into those lats. Now, also, not my necessarily top thing to do. I need to walk over here and grab something really quick. I don't hate foam rolling. I'm not against foam rolling. I'm not anti-foam rolling. I just think that the mobility exercises I showed you earlier, where you're kind of initiating the movement, you're not just stretching or laying on something, those tend to work a little better. But for a lot of you, your lats are going to be a tight tissue. So getting a little movement and rolling into those lats, if you want to make this a little longer, after or before you do your lat stretch, you can add in a little foam rolling for that lat as well. Same thing is going to be true for this next exercise. Another tissue that has a tendency to be tight is the pec, the chest. So I'll show you really quickly. I would not use a foam roller on my pec. I would use something different. So I'm going to use this golf ball. I have this microphone here. So I'm going to put this here right in the meat of my pec. Okay, so it's going to be on the, there's a perfect little hole right here. It's kind of like teeing up a golf ball. And I'm just going to put my chest on it, and I'm going to move my arm. You can do this with a lacrosse ball, with a tennis ball. This is probably the hardest way to do it because of the density, but you're just pinning something to the pec and moving the arm and moving it around different spots. That's how you would foam roll your pec. Now, much like the lat, which we just talked about, right? The lat goes onto your arm, and it inserts on the arm, and it kind of pulls the arm into internal rotation. Now the chest has a tendency to do the same. When it's really tight, it can pull us into more internal rotation. And for a lot of people, having a tight pec is pretty common. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a 90-degree angle at our arm here, and we're just going to lean into it and allow our chest to stretch. And if I look away from my thumb, I'm going to get a really big stretch through this chest and into that tendon. Probably going to want to hold that for about a minute aside. Those are the two tissues that we're stretching directly, the lats and the pecs. I find that they get very tight in most people's upper body, and we love that 90-90 for the hip and that cat-camel for the spine. I've yet to find the mobility equivalent for the pec muscle, because again, with those, we're really stretching the muscle more, and with a few of the first ones, we're really moving the joint, and it's a little more active. So we're going to go back to the floor for this one. This is one that I do a lot because I have chronic lower back pain due to some bulging discs I've picked up over the years. This is probably the simplest one on the entire list, and it's simply pulling the thighs to the chest. And while I do that, I really work on my breathing. It's kind of a funny position. Like, it's one that you can't, I wouldn't do it if you have to fart. But just a slow, deep breath. And you can do it one side at a time. Feels amazing in the low back specifically. So this is one I love for my low back. Regression, one side at a time. Easy breathing, progression or standard, two sides, both legs together. When I get out of this exercise, here's a pro tip for you. Anytime I finished stretching or doing something for my hips, back, and spine that's relaxed, instead of like violently throwing myself up off the floor, I like to like just gently roll to my side and just get up more mellow. Just like take it slow, chill, get off the ground, not like a spaz, you're not in a rush. If you're like me and you make any time at all for this mobility stuff, it's probably awesome to work that in with some breathing work and just generally chilling out. Before we did this video, we filmed like 8 6, 7, 8 other videos. So this is like a pre-workout / post-filming mobility routine. Okay, this I love. You'll hear my wedding ring on the wall here, but what we're gonna do is assume this half kneeling position. I'll show you a regression that's standing. So we're putting ourselves up against the wall here and taking our inside hand and take your non-working hand, put it here. And what you're gonna do is try to look straight ahead while you do a glenohumeral articulation, which basically just means moving the shoulder, the glenohumeral joint specifically, the ball and socket, through its full range of motion. Big circles. You will notice at the top, I turn my hand over and go down. There's an element of rotation there, okay? See it this way on the other side. I'm at the top. Once I hit biceps over ear, I turn, and once I hit this, I turn again. I really just want to work in rotation. Now, another cool one you can do from this position is a T-spine. Ooh. Okay, kind of like our thread the needle. Some crazy shit a lot of people have seen. Okay, you can do all kinds of stuff, whoa, up on that wall. But the thing you're trying to take out of the equation is cheating the movement. So specifically with this GH rotation, this glenohumeral rotation, we do not want that T-spine to come in and be like, oh, there you go, look how good I am. You know, it's like, well, that's not your shoulder that you're mobilizing. So the regression, hold on to something firm, up, and without rotating to the best of your ability, just do it standing if that kneeling position is at all hard for you. And the last stretch I'm going to show you is probably the easiest one, but it's also one that you can do throughout the day. I would recommend doing this all the time. Pairs nicely with television. It's just spending some time in an assisted deep squat. So if you need to, you can hold on to something to get deep into your squat like this. I will oftentimes use a rack. For me, I can just hang out here. That's going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of you, but it's going to get the job done to stretch the ankles, tibialis, hips. I like to hold on to something because I can use my T-spine. But a lot of you watch TV like for hours and hours and hours, and you know, you can just hang out and literally look at your TV while you're in this bottom position here and break up your commercial breaks with a deep squat sit. You know, when you see that it went to commercial, or you know, I'm in between episodes on Netflix or whatever, just spend some time in this position or doing any of these exercises. I really think with mobility, the best thing you can do is sprinkle it in on a semi-frequent basis. So if you did all 10 of these exercises for 1 minute each, that would be 10 minutes straight. That's really not that much time. But if you're watching like a football game, for example, the Super Bowl is today, the Chiefs play the Niners. Just going to put it on camera right now. Chiefs 24, Niners 21. Okay, we'll come back to this. Okay, Chiefs 24, Niners 21. Look at the clock, 10:05 and 30 seconds on Sunday, the 12th day of the month of February of the year of 2024. I called the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. Don't be surprised when it happens, and you heard it here first. Purdy's going to turn the ball over a couple times. It'll be like, oh, how did we ever doubt the Chiefs? That's my hot take. You can roast me in the comments, Niner fans, if I get it wrong. But you'll be able to sprinkle that in all throughout the game. I love watching football. There's tons of commercials. During the first commercial, I do the first minute. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you can sprinkle this 10-minute routine all throughout, you know, something that's longer than 10 minutes. Because the magic of mobility work is in the frequency. Like, it's not that you're going to do this routine one time and be fixed. You're going to do this routine one time and feel a lot better. But if you sprinkle this routine across your day a couple times, or you do a few that feel good here and a few that feel good there, you'll get great results. Doing this for 10 minutes one time will not work as well as doing this for 10 minutes every day, or doing this spread across your entire day. Frequency is really important when it comes to mobility, but if you are just generally stiff, tight, and want to feel better, try this routine. I promise you will enjoy it. It is fairly accessible for most people, and if any of these moves cause pain or dysfunction or just don't feel right, try one of the regressions or just skip it and insert something else that works for you. You can always add more foam rolling, more basic static stretching. It doesn't have to be insanely intense. And so yeah, there you have it. That is my 10-minute total body mobility routine. Tons of stuff here on the channel for you, full workouts for different muscle groups, loads of tutorials, tons of short form content to help make fitness easier and more approachable. If you would hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like the video, it would be huge because I am just now starting to post on YouTube, and I hope that one day when I have like 1 billion followers, I look back at this video and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, this is one of our first videos. And one of the ways you can help is by liking, following, subscribing, all of that stuff. So stay tuned for more.